Happy Monday, real and raw. I'm Lynn, and you are?
I'm Brian.
I was going to say, and you are out of town again.
Yep.
The man is always on a roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just hope you got enough good sleep.
Nope.
Oh, no.
But onward and forward we go.
Oh, there you go. So you had a great weekend?
It was enjoyable, but it was freaking busy.
Yeah.
All
And
weekend long.
then it goes by so fast, and the next thing you know, it's just a faded memory.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So, the man with a mission, always on the go. I didn't want to change that to that color, but I'm just playing.
Welcome, everybody. Happy Monday. Another week, another topic, another thought-provoking discussion with all of you.
Yes, it is. The week of risk and how to get uncomfortable and make more of them. Day one, what is and why it holds us back. Oh my goodness. We would have a topic this week when I'm pushing through new barriers and experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is kind of in the forefront of thought lately for myself.
Yep.
But so far I'm managing through. Excuse me, got a cough over here. So what made you pick this topic this week, Brian?
Well, I mean, there's an actual book that just came out from Victoria Labalme. Haven't read it all, but I find risk fascinating, just like trust, where it's intangible. It's different for everybody, but it's either there or it's not. And it's one of those things that if you're willing to, like trust, you have to take the actions in order to get it. Risk is no different. That no matter what you define as risk, it's going to take something from you to actually get. And so it's a very fascinating phenomenon, if you will, whatever you want to call it, intangible force. And I love it because we're all at the end of our lives, if we're able to look forward, you're either going to live with regret or not. And too many people are playing small or waiting for others to go first. And that's the wrong idea, especially, we've all been affected by what's been going on in the world. But if we look at a reset, it's like, what are we putting at stake? Because you can't get something greater than what you're willing to give. So risk is fascinating to me because it's what holds people back. And, everybody needs a little kick in the butt because they want the reward, but they don't want to put in what it takes. And as we talked about in previous shows, like pay the price and, put matters of your past firmly in your past and keep them there. I think risk is right up there, and it's either you are or you're not. There is no gray area for me if you're taking risk. The only difference is what's your risk threshold, and what are you going to do to up the risk? Because if it's interesting, because like calculated risk and whatnot, I think that's a bunch of garbage. I don't think that you either take a risk or you don't. It's like, well, because you're not willing to fully do what it takes, right? I mean, so that's what speaks to me about this topic is, based on the book, not principles specifically from it, but just in terms of the concept and the phenomenon known as risk.
I want to say really quick hi to Scott Ricard. And then we have Scott Jones.
Yeah, double lip locks.
You're welcome, Scott. Well, it's a great topic that we're talking about today because, I'm putting my money where my mouth is per se. And I finished writing my book and now I'm just trying to get a couple people to just read it. And my biggest thing is that I'm running in the territory of now self-publishing. And I have this thing where I could probably go to Fiverr and wait till somebody helps me out to finish that task. Or I'm going to just go through and just learn how to do it myself. And that's just, a little out of my comfort zone. And I really try not to use Word, but here I am trying to use Word so I could do a PDF and blah, blah, blah. So I'm having some challenges right now, but I'm determined one way or another to be really proud of authentically not only writing, not only not getting an editor, but also going to self-publish and just it being raw and real and just saying, I went through the whole process without actually putting my money, getting a ghostwriter, getting a editor, or paying somebody to do my cover and publishing it for me. I'm doing this really raw and real and putting the stamp on that unapologetically, I did this and I did it myself. And so it is taking a risk, but I don't give a shit about the risk. The point is I want to get this done, and I'm going to do any means and measures with my own ability to learn how to do it than to just take the shortcuts right now. I'm sure later I'll take a shortcut and get an editor, and I'll be polished and all these other things. That's fine and dandy. But I just want it out of the gate so that I can appreciate the tools and the things I learn later, and show that the comparison and struggling or nobody really matters. It's just publishing your book. But there's different reasons why people publish books and things like that. And I'm just getting out of my comfort zone and doing something I normally don't do. So
let's step away from the book type of thing. What components of risk do you see showing up?
Risks? You mean outside of a book?
Yeah, I mean without the book. I mean,
right.
Risk is there regardless of if there's a book or whatever somebody's up to.
Risks are just, if you stay in your mindset, I can't do that or I can't do this is one thing, but going ahead and doing it, and just the risks of me leaving my house to go to Florida and driving there and health and whatever, I took a risk last year and I made it, and I drove to New York last year. And
what made it a risk though?
What made riots, a COVID, my health issues, just quite a bit of things that got me out of my comfort zone. But that was the first time I actually went from Montana to New York driving by myself. So there are risks in all those things, and I just took it to the next level. And, same thing goes with this year. It's, it's more calculated, it's more whatever, but stopping different places and going a route that I've never been this year is huge risk to me, because I don't know the areas, I don't know what to expect, and yet I'm going to do it anyways.
Okay.
So it's vulnerability and risks all the way around this year.
Right. And
for you?
I don't think that I don't believe in such a thing as calculated risk. I think it's black and white.
What the heck? We got all the Scotts. Scott Goyette, Scott Ricard, and Scott Jones. We got a triple effect here. Thanks, you guys.
I just think that like based on a lot of what you said, it's kind of implied, that it's like, okay, you're going alone, you don't know what's going to happen, new roads. To me, that's all implied. Right. Yeah. So it doesn't stand out as being a risk. It's just kind of bundled together. Right. Okay. So I look at risks that you're willing to face the unknown, and you're going to be okay with it regardless of what happens.
And that's true. But I'm just saying, some people look at it.
Go ahead.
Like my daughter. She's like, oh, it was nice knowing you, Mom. You're going to die because you're traveling over back east last year. And so what I'm saying is it's a matter of perception of how you look at risk.
Right. But I also think too is that depending on what somebody's been through or whatever, their definition of risk is going to be different. So it's subjective,
Right.
Because for me, traveling across the country, that doesn't really seem like much of a risk, like roads that you don't know and how you're going to get there in the route. It's like that's kind of a part of the process.
Well, you see, that might be your perspective, but when you're a female and you're by yourself and you're in an area in Montana and you're going over that way and there's like no cars in between, and then the cars that do stop, do you deal with that and you don't have any cell service? Yeah, I'm taking a risk, Brian. I'm taking a risk. Flat tire or whatever.
I think also that's kind of implied that you never know what's going to happen, though.
Right. But what I'm saying is I can leave the factor of the risk to be a reason why not to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, that's a different perspective.
Sure.
and yeah, I'm going to take whatever chance and do whatever and not let the fear or the risk stop me from doing what I want to do. However, those are, for a female, those are things. I don't know how to run tools. I don't know how to, whatever. So, I mean, there's different things that are perspective. I mean, that's your perception, but that's a perspective of possibilities.
Once you decide to do that, though, it shouldn't be a lingering thought, in my opinion.
No, it shouldn't. Like anything else, you either, shit on the pot or get off, or you just go ahead and say you need to shut those thoughts off and go with the positive and things like that. Absolutely. But, those are still factors that in making a decision, you're taking a risk to fall through.
You either overcome them and you move on, or you don't overcome them and don't go on.
Right.
That's
right.
Because you can't have the reward without the potential pitfalls.
Right. And the same thing goes with when you're in domestic violence relationships, right, and you take the risk of leaving and you do the measures you need to. Again, it's a women's perspective here, but it's true that there are risks in bettering your situation. There are risks that you leave people behind. There's risks that you really, when you want to be successful and you want to go forward, you have to leave people behind that don't support you. Reinventing yourself. I mean, any risk you're taking to move forward in your life can hold people back, and they have their reasons why, because of those kinds of things. And that's what we're talking about, right? Is what holds you back is mostly your mind and your mindset and your end goal. And my end goal is to see my dad. So with knowing I want to see my dad, I'm taking any risk I can. Mm-hmm. So whatever fear or decisions, there's no choice. This is what I need to do.
I think that there's a lot of that mindset comes from peer pressure. I think it comes from conformity. I think it comes from people not actually having an authentic choice, so to speak. Is their choice is influenced from other people and they can't see it. That's why they don't emerge because they're held back by others.
Right. The desire or the mindset to accomplish something that you don't know if you're going to accomplish it unless you try to do it. Right.
And that's where it's like, well, I didn't meet my goal. Well, are you further than you were before? Okay. Well, then there you go. Like,
right.
Like Les Brown says, reach for the stars. And if you fall short, you're further than where you were before.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it doesn't mean failure either. And that's what people hold. Right. Well, you didn't accomplish it, so it's failure. No, it's not failure. It's just, you're failing forward. Yeah. So absolutely.
I think that getting uncomfortable, I think it's a learned behavior. I don't think, people come out of the womb and all of a sudden they're uncomfortable. I think that I think it starts from within. It starts from people that want more out of life and they're going to do what it takes to make that happen. They're usually not, they don't really talk too much about it because they're busy in action. Right. And, they don't know how they're going to do it, but they'll figure it out. And I think that is those are some of the qualities of risk-taking people, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about the reward as being money or financial gain. I'm talking about just doing things that you never thought you could do, based on the potential about how little brain power we actually use. Right. Like neurologically, we only at a maximum use 10% of our brains.
Absolutely.
So it's like, wow. And, we have no subconscious or no rational thought about if we used even more percentage of our brain. Right. We can't conceive that because there's so many things in life that bring us back.
Yep. So yeah, there's a lot of things to get uncomfortable about, and taking more risks. You got to realize that you can sit there and be uncomfortable, or you can pull through, just like you're driving down a highway. It might be a blizzard. You can stop and be in that blizzard, or you can keep driving and realize that there's sunshine and summer, over the rainbow. I mean, you have two choices: just be uncomfortable and move forward, or stay where you're at and continuously be uncomfortable and not know when it's going to change.
Right.
And so past experiences things that hold people back, and assuming that it's going to be like that if you continue. So, I mean, these are the other reasons why I think people are held back.
Well, you can't, you know, yeah. I mean, when I think of somebody taking a calculated risk, they've got one foot in two different boats, and the boats are going apart. It's like risk doesn't work that way. Eventually, you have to decide. Just like if you're gonna take an exit off of a freeway,
right?
It's either a yes or no, right? It's not like, well, I don't know. Well, you're either going to go through the exit or you're not. I mean, it's right. And I think that, you know, our society speaks of that, where we don't want to commit. Well, if you don't, you know, you can't, if you're going to take a risk seriously and fully be in, well, there is no, well, maybe.
Yeah.
No, because what is that going to speak about the actions you're going to take for it?
Right. And, you know, it can take you so many different directions to get you to the right one. But you got to take one is the start of the journey to get where you need to be. And so it does cause, you know, uncomfortableness. And it also, you know, makes you ponder and seriously think, what's the purpose? What's the end goal, you know? And then it's the end goal you reverse engineer to actually take the little small steps to catapult through the whole big, you know, puzzle of life. So, yeah, I think I think that's all we need to say today, folks. No, just kidding.
No.
So, yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of different situations out there that so many people have regrets at the end of their life, that they're like, man, I seen other people do this. Why didn't I do it? And, you know, we have it, you know, as long as you're here, you have another day to try to put yourself out there to see if you too can do that.
Yeah. You got to get rid of everybody else's viewpoint. And if they feel it's okay because it's your life and it's your choice, it's the way you want to live life, not anybody else's.
Right. And that's what I love about people being vulnerable these days, because when people do get out of the norm and actually just be transparent about it, it's amazing how people are like their inhibitions, you know, their uptightiness of being like, I can't do that. Now it's like that 4-mile run, you know, breaking like, shit, they did it. Wait a second. I want to do it. And, you know, it's competitiveness. It's the, okay, you know, they're doing it, I'll do it. So unfortunately, there's still that conformity most people try to do. But hey, Michelle is here. Good afternoon. Yeah. Crappy day here. Oh, bummer. Well, we're happy you're here. So, you know, it really is letting down and having that talk to yourself, that self-talk. What do you want to do? What do you want to do that you're worried about everyone else? Screw them, do it yourself, you know, and, you know, get out of the humdrum of conformity.
Well, I don't, that depending on who it is, that takes many years to do.
Yeah. Well,
because that conformity is all around, and you might have to be willing to move, find a different tribe of people, really follow your light and where it's going. Dude, and when you lay it out to people like that, you know, they'd rather sit there and fester in mediocrity or in, you know, the someday phenomenon, which doesn't exist, versus,
well, you know,
stepping up to the plate.
I'm 55 years old and I'm really going out of my comfort zone. And so I know it is possible as long as you have that will to change things. And, you know, looking back at your life, if you will look back and see how many times you took things by the horn, you had kahunas, and you did stuff and you didn't care. I mean, I believe everyone here has at one point not given a shit what anyone thought and did what they wanted to do. I believe that they have it within themselves. I'm sure that they have done it. Probably was, you know, out of, you know, being impulsive or whatever it is, but you've done it. I guarantee everybody has done something impulsive or whatever and just said, screw it, and did it anyways. And if they can see that within themselves and stir themselves to redo that again, I would be surprised. I think, you change your mind, you change your body, you change your mind, you can change your world. I mean, it really is, and that's coming from, somebody that's, had, depressed moments, depressed things, traumatic things in my life. And I still pull through it. I sometimes just go where I'm blank. I don't want to think. It's just too overwhelming and I'll shut down. And I don't allow that to be my excuse or my reason not to keep pulling through.
Mm-hmm.
I refuse to let that hold me back.
Mm-hmm.
So I just know it is possible. That's all I'm saying. I know it's possible.
Well, are you having more conversation? Here's a question to everybody: is that if you're surrounding if you don't take any risks, you're more than likely going to stay where you're at or revert back.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Right.
Right. So what do you got to lose?
Right.
Given where you are, because you already know what it's going to look like if you don't do anything. That applies to all of us. If we do nothing, we're going to be right where we are, and if anything, we're going to revert back to whatever that is.
That's true.
So, and a risk is a lifetime commitment.
Mm-hmm.
You take little risk and then they get bigger, right? How'd you do that? Because I chose it. Did you know what might happen? Sure, I did. But the reason why and the curiosity overcame, there's always going to be payoffs and regrets and, nothing is set in stone in life except we're born and we die. That's it.
That's right.
And like so calculated risk, I don't believe, because it's, what if this happens? What if this happens? Are you ready to do it or not?
Yeah.
You can sit there and, get all in your head about it, but is that making you decide any sooner or making you a little bit more fearful?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because you want to or you don't.
Right.
And you find a way.
Absolutely.
Or you align yourself with people that know or that can give you some insight.
Yeah.
But I think that the people that are risk takers, they carve out their own space. They walk their own walk.
Absolutely.
They don't really care what other people think. Truth be told.
Yeah.
They, whether it's their DNA or whether it's their life experiences or whatever, they're always in action to try to stretch that gap between mediocrity, average, and what's possible.
Absolutely.
You either do it or you don't. And that path is not linear, and it may not make sense to a majority of the people in everybody's world, but it doesn't have to. You're not looking for agreement. Hey, is that okay if I do this? Well, of course nobody's going to agree to that unless they're in your community or your tribe.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to be showing up because they take it personal. That's why it's like nobody wants anybody. I mean, for you, let me just give everybody an example. Like people that graduate from high school and they don't go to college, right? Like I'm talking like 20 years ago, right? That was like the next step, right? Does it make them any different? No, just that they had different paths. But then when you re-engage with those people, there may or may not be anything to talk about. Does that mean that those people that didn't go to college didn't take risks? No, that wasn't just for them. It doesn't make them wrong. It doesn't make them any better. It's just that they chose a different path. Some people may want small risks. Well, some people want to jump out of airplanes. I've done that before, right? Whatever anybody's definition of a risk is, but I think the one component is you don't know the outcome. You don't know how the cards are going to be played out. And I think that that's one uniform thing that we could possibly all agree upon related to risk. You don't know what the outcome is going to be or what it's going to look like. You don't get to do a pause the tape and let's recap. It won't work that way, right? When an opportunity comes up, you either take it or you don't.
Absolutely.
And how do you know what's going to happen? Because whatever your decision is, it may or may not bring that to fruition.
Yeah. And, like you said, nothing, because 3 people jump on a trampoline doesn't mean one's not going to get hurt. One's going to be, flown off or whatever. It doesn't mean that a procedure, or even like in network marketing or this or that, because someone was successful and someone didn't, or whatever. I mean, the risks are the risks depending on associations or whatever. So it really is one of those things where you can't prejudge what the outcome is going to be at all. People, like cryptocurrency or anything. I mean, like, stock market. I mean, like anything, those are all, they're not calculated risks. They're just taking risks and go, And so it really comes down to, are you going to get out of your comfort zone and actually explore, adventure, or, see if things are better than where they were. I mean, nothing gets better until your mind is willing to just take the risk and go and do things. It really is a matter of switching your thought, and just knowing, why would you want to do that? Do you want to continue to stay where you're at, or do you want to, catapult to the next level, or, whatever? It just, like they say, when there's trends going on, some people are right there and only few people are taking the launch. And from the launch, they're, catapulting up there, and other people are like, wait, I need to, I want to be part of that trend. And then all of a sudden there's that peak, because then everybody's up there. Everybody wants to do this. And then it's down. And then those people they fizzle out. And then all you still have are those trendsetters that are going to go ride that peak down and go back up. Those are the risk takers, not the ones that are just riding coattails or riding the storm, but not actually going anywhere. So they're like, shit, I'll either swim out to shore, or I'll stay and ride the wave out there. I mean, like, there's no in between, because out there, you're either going to ride that wave or you're going to drown.
And I think another reason why I don't like calculated risk is because you want the reward, but you don't want the potential failure. And it's just like, okay, well, how are you going to learn a lesson if you never go through a failure?
Yeah. Well, and failures are considered going forward, failures are going forward, and people need, like, I don't say, oh, let me try to do this as a risk, and, I'm going to fail. That's not what you're looking to do. You're looking to get it right the first time. However, you have to say to yourself, it's okay if I fail. I'm going to learn something from this experience. And going forward, I think I'll take different measures to get to that next point in life.
And the bigger the stakes, the more the bigger the commitment, the bigger the reward, all of that, the bigger you need to emerge.
Right.
Period.
Yeah. And that's why it is really nice to read some autobiographies of some people that have been very successful, because you can't read those books without realizing the risks they took.
Well, and I get that everybody's their risk tolerance is different, and I fully. Hey, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Everybody's risk tolerance is different, so obviously mine is going to be different than Lynn's and all of you. But it's like, man, the more comfortable you are comfortable in the norm. What I mean by that is when you make comfort your uncomfortable, when you make discomfort your norm, you crave more of it.
Right.
So almost to the point where it's like, if you're always on stage performing or whatever, when you're like with family, you're almost uncomfortable because you're so immersed in experiences that you've never had before versus a dinner with family, right? Doesn't mean you don't know your family. It just means that your world is so much into keep pushing that envelope for the unknown.
Yeah.
Than what's predictable, or, we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. And that's my world, because I always want to keep expanding that, because it doesn't turn into fear after a while.
No, it becomes an adventure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. And you just do it, right?
Yeah.
The more you do it, the more it's like, holy crap. And you don't even realize that you're advancing with it until somebody reminds you or whatever, because it's your blind spot.
Right.
You're just doing it.
Yep.
You're not really keeping tabs. You might take some mental notes, but you're living that.
Right. And I think this year 2021, that's what you and I have been doing all along, and I just love it. I think evolving from where we were to, like, next month I'll be out on the road, but the 6 month point of looking at videos from when we first started to now, I mean, like, we're both accomplishing and doing things that we weren't doing at the beginning of the year. That's for damn sure.
I mean, I just started another improv class, and I love improv.
Yeah.
I studied it for several years. You're never, even for the foremost, improv experts. It's such a universal discipline that it'd be hard for me to see somebody that was a master at it, right? Maybe there is, but it'd be hard for me to see that just because it's different groups of people, it's different times, you're always in the moment. And I love it because I'll initiate, like the class I'm in with a couple other people. It's like, I'll just go there. I'll make a fool out of myself and get everybody to laugh because that's what makes me comfortable.
Yeah.
Now, am I trying to steal the show? Absolutely not. But I know that if everybody laughs, if we get that elephant out of the room, so to speak, even though it's an improv class, it's going to be better for everybody to really dive in and get the most out of the class.
Again,
somebody has to do it. I'll do it. I don't care what I look like because I know we're all here to learn and hone our skills.
Again, that's an adventure.
Yeah. But it's like, but also though there again, it's like, okay, what safe haven are you creating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a tribe of people? Is it a little precious spot in your heart? There has to be a safe haven where you remind yourself whenever times get tough, what's going to get you through. Is your belief system so deep? Do you have a crew of people that you can rely on that's going to boost you up, right? Because obviously you want to minimize the peaks and valleys. Yeah. If you're going to have breakthroughs and breakdowns, you want to minimize the amount of breakdowns. And if you have breakdowns, you minimize the amount of time it takes to get back to neutral or above.
Yeah.
The more peaks and valleys you have with crests that are really up and down, that's what you want to eliminate. You want to shorten that time because of the emotion you're putting into it and what you might be taking personally, which is not meant to be taken personally. It's just the nature of the beast.
Right. Well, I commend you too, because, even though you require your beauty sleep, I mean, you still don't allow that to making you uncomfortable. You are willing to still go out and travel and do these different things. And that's very commendable to show that you don't allow, well, I might not get a good sleep to stop you where some other people would. I'm just saying that, taking little. Go ahead.
I think if you want it, you got to go get it.
Yeah.
You got to crave it. You got to eat it for breakfast, lunch. It's got to be on your mind to move that needle.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen on its own. It's not going to happen by listening to everybody else. It's definitely not going to happen. Because we're the only ones that exist in our, we have obviously different components of our psychology, right? Our id, our super ego, and our ego, right?
Right.
Telling us what to do and trying to keep us safe and well and all of that, and keep us out of the dark thoughts and the demon part of our brain. But at the same time, you got to do it. Nobody's going to be there when you got to do the work. Right.
Right.
And they might not understand it. And I love that, because years down the road, when things come to fruition, I'm not really listening to what comments are being said because I'm too busy working.
Well, that's just like if somebody, cheats all through high school or college or something, their exams or their tests or their assignments. They don't do these assignments. They pay somebody to do these assignments. Well, you know what? That's fine and dandy, and it looks good for your average record. But what the hell are you going to do when the final exam comes and you can't pass it?
Correct.
I mean, like, nobody could take the bar. Nobody could take the medical exam or the nurse's test or whatever. Nobody can do that shit for you. And at the end of the day, how confident, how successful do you feel that you didn't do all the components yourself? I mean,
well, and that live, breathe, eat it, sleep it. I mean, it has to be a part of it. What are you willing to put on the line in your life that you're willing to immerse yourself in. I mean,
Right.
I've shared that word many times, but it goes deep, just like interpretation. When you immerse yourself in a discipline, you make that everything you do. That's it.
Right. Right.
You know, you don't willy-nilly around it, just like taking a class, right? It's like, oh, they found they have an ulterior motive. They're going to have somebody do it for them, so they don't really learn anything, right?
Yeah.
Well, and then you find out, like, I've taken several bodies of training where I almost like question, like, did they really learn anything in this class? You know, because I mean, just to write down some notes and, hey, if I get something great or whatever, that's not, you're really not paying the price. I mean, you're spending money, but are you really putting a lot at stake that it's like, hey, the future of my business depends on this training?
I agree.
Like, you can just sit there and take notes. You can actually like participate and, have the trainer or have the instructor rip your stuff apart. Okay. So what? I mean, it's a safe haven. It's better to happen in a body of training than it is out at a live wedding. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people get comfortable. They get comfortable in what they know and not what they don't know. And it's like,
right.
Well, everything that is curious about what we don't know that we don't know is by experience. It's by putting ourselves out there and the universe opens up and we make it happen. That's another thing too about calculated risk. It's just like, okay, you want to have some control over what may or may not happen. Well, that's not calculated.
No.
It's like I wanted it to go this way. Okay, it didn't go that way. Now what?
Yeah, like I like taking things apart and trying to figure out how they work. But sometimes I realize if I don't remember how it does go back apart together, there's going to be a problem or it's going to go a different way.
There's a few things how to get uncomfortable. Number one is be vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Number two is be transparent. Number three is to be the first to participate. Mm-hmm. Whenever it comes to improv exercises or, whatever, even if I didn't hear what was being talked about or what we're doing, the fastest way that I learn is by actually doing it.
Right.
And so what if it's clunky the first time? I can guarantee that by the end of that class, I'm going to be probably the first one to volunteer in every exercise. Now, is that everybody's cup of tea? Is that the way that they learn best? No, that's not everybody's way. They want to see it demonstrated, then they may do it. For me, I don't want to get in my head about it and be like the last group of people to participate, and then I'm thinking about it instead of doing it.
Yeah. I like to go figure out how mechanical things work on my own, or even if I was training on a computer or something, I like to play around with it first and then go read a manual. Because then I go, oh, now that makes sense. But to read a manual that supposedly what's going to happen when I haven't even tried to see how it's going to happen, that doesn't work for me. So if anybody's watching, how do you do something like that? Are you one that likes to read a manual or read the instructions first, or do you actually try to look and say what pieces go together or whatever? I mean, because there are two different schools of thought or how people handle things. But like you said, getting just involved and just taking whatever steps to learn, to how to do it. You've got to take some kind of action and some kind of initiative to make it happen, or it's not going to happen at all.
And like why it holds us back, from my point of view, is what holds us back is looking good versus looking bad, right? Mm-hmm. Right and wrong. I did it wrong, I'm an idiot or whatever you tell yourself, and then your self-belief system, right? What holds us back? It's all of that chronic stuff, because how many times in life are you ever in a safe place? Yeah. Like, were you, like, even regardless if somebody says it, but do you feel it? Do you feel that this is a safe place for you to do something that you hardly ever do in life? The answer is probably going to be no, because it's so rare. Mm-hmm. Where nobody's judging you, nobody's assessing you. It's a safe place to be for a couple hours, right? I mean, I remember improv classes years ago when it was like, wow, like people out in the real world where they're, they work in a lab all day or something. And so they want to work on their social skills, or they want to start dating, and it's like they are where they are, right? But to relate to that and connect to that, and then have them just push themselves a little bit. And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, after an 8-week course, they're like, whoa. But they had to give up that people were going to assess them or judge them or make fun of them or whatever. Right now, if people feel that others are doing that to them, well, that needs to be shut off, because I've seen many people with all the potential in the world that they have the antennas up for other people's viewpoints of them, and then there's a lot of potential that went wasted because of other people's voices.
And people are always going to disappoint you regardless. I mean,
Right.
you know, so let's just say, oh, what? Yeah, you know, because you might have your cheering squad, but leave your tribe. Where the hell are you? I mean, you know, you're going to have that friction, and, you know, some people call them haters or whatever. But truly, you need to just turn on the switch on for yourself, and the rest will follow.
Well, and that switch needs to be on, and you have to keep selecting that switch.
Yeah.
Because it's very simple to me. You're either in control of what you do and the actions you take, or you're letting the voices of others impact your own view on things and the actions you either take or not. It's either you or them. Now, is it fair for other people to get inside your mind and influence you? No, but you choose that.
Right.
And then you have no blame. There should be no blame or excuses if you're allowing somebody to manipulate or influence you about what you should do, leaving you to the point of you're almost not even deciding it because you're believing somebody else's view.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like when people see that and they overcome that and they move away from that, they found out like, wow, this person just wanted me to be like them. I don't want to be like them. I want to be my own person.
Well, when everyone is being the same, who do you think's going to stick out?
Right.
Ain't nobody going to notice you.
And here's the thing. You give me a group of people that are conforming and one person that's willing to stand out, just like, you know, Seth Godin talks about in Purple Cow, right? You know, we're coming out of, you know, something very, very terrible that our world faced. It's not very difficult to stand out, in my opinion, because if everybody's going left, you go right.
Yeah.
Now, sifting through all the noise and all the congestion and who's truthful, who's not, and all of that, that's a little bit more difficult. But if you want to choose to be different, well, is it a belief system? Sure it is. Are you going to be lonely? Sure. But eventually, will that emerge? Yeah. But it starts with you.
Right.
You know, and you have to be willing to do that without any agreement.
This is true.
You know, like no agreement, like, hey, everybody, come on. This is where we should be. Expect nobody to jump to that because it's not a conforming thing.
Well, if it was the case, everyone would be doing it, right?
Correct.
And that we don't have that many people at that level that have been willing to go over the fence so high.
Well,
and
the one thing with risk, just like getting good at any skill or whatever, it's got to be consistent. Just like with live streaming, like we do every day, 5 days a week for all of you, is that we're learning things. And you just mentioned it a couple minutes ago, Lynn, about where we were at the beginning of the month, or excuse me, at the beginning of the year, and where we are now, right? Is it always easy? Heck no.
No.
We're all over the frickin' place. So, you know, Monday, oh man, Monday. But you make it happen.
Right. Right.
You deliver for people, and then you just leave it where it is.
Right.
But you show up regardless of how you feel.
Absolutely. Especially the gym time and things like that. You always feel like shit when you go in, but man, you feel so much better and you feel accomplished. And you know, I always loved going to the gym and saying, damn, I did more than I expected. Cause you know, I walk in there like only 20 minutes, only 30 minutes, you know, and they're like, no, I'm in the zone. I can't leave now. You know, that kind of thing. So yeah.
And there's it just blows my doors off that when this gets ticking, we more times than not answer ourselves of why not to take risks, because this brain gets going from a logical part, right? But the adventure and the discovery is in the other part of the brain.
Yeah, and
the creative part.
Right. Know? And I fight that every day to the voices of this is why you can't. And but the voice that's louder for me is this is why I am.
Yeah.
And it really is just continuously getting out of my comfort zone. And I'm grateful I've done that. And I think mostly too, I remind myself how many times I would not talk. I would not use my voice. Yep. And those are regrets and things in my life that I cannot change. Mm-hmm. But going forward, I'm like, oh, hell no. I ain't sitting back and letting that clock tick over again on me. Oh, heck no. I'm going to do something about it, figure something out. I'm going to do things I haven't done before. And I've, 5 months into this year, and I've shown vulnerable around like all over humanity, people. And, and at the end of the day, I'm okay where the chips fall. I mean, some people may like it, some people may not, and that's okay. But as long as I'm doing the best I can and feeling good about it, then that's who I need to be happy with, is myself.
And that's another thing about risk is that you have to be willing to give up all comparison. Mm-hmm. Because you're not going to get anywhere, because the more that you compare yourself to other people, you're probably going to find fault with yourself. And I don't know any risk taker that, gives more opinion or gives more thought to the view of others than they do of themselves. Your belief system has to be rock solid. Like as what Dennis said, you have to crave it, live it, eat it, breathe it every day. Mm-hmm. You have to be willing to do that. If you're not, that right there is a beginning. That's a prerequisite for risk, in my opinion, because you're going to be confronted. Because really, in essence, you're transforming your whole world. Right. Now, you start off with a little risk here and there, but eventually those risks get bigger, and your heart is connected to your brain, and that just gets so much more closer and deeper, because it's like, ooh, what would happen now? What does this look like? None of this is going to make sense to the logical part of the brain. Absolutely none of this will make sense. No. Why would somebody jump out of an airplane? Because they want to. It's fun. It's a bucket list. Doesn't make any logical sense that you could die. What if your chute doesn't open up? All of that. You know what I mean? But it's risk that they crave it once, then they crave it again, and it just gets bigger and more. Yeah. But but here's another thing. They're living life on their terms and not anybody else's. Right. Yeah. We all have that choice, Yeah. Just like, I'm probably have better luck trying to skydive in Florida than I do in Montana here, because Montana here, if you have any herniated discs or this or that, or back, this and that, they say, no, you can't try it here. But I look at it this way. Why the hell are they trying to tell me that when there's 80 and 90-year-olds? You can't tell me they don't have degenerative disc disease and that they have, elements that they shouldn't be jumping either, but they're jumping and they're making it. So I challenge all that bullshit one day, and I'm going to go there and I'm going to say, look, and so, yeah, but I'm just saying it's one of those things. Here's another thing too for everybody to examine, is that when anybody in your world wants to hold you back, look at them in terms of what they've done or where they're going. Yeah. Like, what risks have they taken, or haven't they taken any? Yeah. Like do that from a view. Take a breath and look at that person in terms of, the past year, the past 5 years, whatever it is, however long you've known them, and really examine what they've done to take risks. Have the risks been small? Have they fell short on them or fallen short on them? Do you really are you really willing to take advice or suggestion or any kind of communication from somebody that really doesn't have much to say? Because they have a lot to say, but their actions would speak otherwise. Well, I'm glad you said that, because I think that that's one of my reasons why I push the envelope with myself, is because if you looked at my medical records and if you looked at my past history and blah, 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 you could say, oh, yeah, she's got enough reasons and, validations for this and that. I'm like, oh, hell no. I don't let those things define me whatsoever.
including the fact that, you know, I say to myself, why unapologetically am I going to be an authentic author and put myself out there? Because I figure if I can do this, I can tell other people there's no reason why you can't have an excuse. Now, going through the challenges, I mean, there's some validations and whatnot, but again, it's you've got to stay focused on what is your purpose and why you're doing what you're doing, or why are you trying to do what you're doing. Right. Because without that motivation and desire to achieve something that other people say, well, you know, that's difficult and time consuming and this and that, you for yourself, those are all legitimate, valid things, but you also have to rise from that and say, but that's not an excuse not to do it. Correct. Or try to do it. And so I think that's what motivates me and inspires me, is to say that, you know, when I've had people say, you don't understand what it is to be threatened, or, you know, worry for your life, or you don't know this, and that. And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I do. And I've lived to tell, and I know you can too. We just stay so stuck in our last story. I mean, I was ashamed for many years. And I mean, I just would hide my body. I mean, I gained a lot of weight because I didn't want nobody to see it. And I'm like, but I love to be healthy. I'm like, I got to do this for myself. I just have to get financially in a situation now I can just hire myself a personal bodyguard and, you know, have that out of the way. But but what I'm trying to say is, you got to look at the ways and the means to get what you want, despite what you've in the past. I've let other people define me. I've let other people, you know, get in my head, emotionally keep me down, knowing my insecurities. And I'm like, screw all that shit. I am just so grateful to say that I've had the ability to put myself out there and be vulnerable and yet learn. And I'm telling you, this is the best part about being vulnerable. I may have been out there vulnerable and putting myself out in dating sites, and I didn't like it. But what I love about it is that when I'm in a healthier place and a position and these guys come circling around again, I'm so thankful I was out of my comfort zone so that I can pick people better than the quality I was, you know, that was available, should say. And that's just, like I said, it just, I wouldn't have learned that, or I wouldn't have felt that or experienced that if I wasn't vulnerable enough to look at it with a healthy mind, to say, oh, you know, I'm not going to feel bad and I'm not going to whatever. It just, you got to experience things, and you've got to get out of your comfort zone to know that you're going to be okay, no matter what the situation is.
And let's be perfectly clear with everybody, is that where everybody's at, because, you know, we're all different in our threshold for risk taking, is that my risk tolerance is going to be different because I've been honing it for years. Right. But it doesn't mean you don't start.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean you don't start. It doesn't mean that you know, I mean, once you get that ball rolling, you want to keep it rolling, because it's like, wow, you know. And here's the thing, there's quotes out there that would speak to this, but it's like, if you leave your life up to somebody else, they don't have a lot in store for you. I know I'm paraphrasing here, but there's several quotes that speak to that in the history of our world, right?
Yeah.
So, and also, though, another viewpoint, consider that it's not the thing that you're up to that people don't agree with. Consider it's not the thing that you're doing that holds you back. It's the viewpoint or the commentary of other people and their talking and how you want to appear to them. You doing your thing is one thing, right? Whatever that is for you to take risk and feel fulfilled. But it's the aftermath. What are they going to say? You know, is word going to spread, gossip, drama, whatever, right? I'd be willing to say that matters more than the thing you're doing, the thing you want to stay committed to. Yeah. Because the reason why you wanted to do it is for your own reasons, your fulfillment, your happiness. Mm-hmm. But it's like, ooh, what is this person going to think? What's that person going to think? Shouldn't frickin' matter.
No.
And it blows my doors off that people, you know, they've had people in their tribe say that you're really good at this, but they don't do it. They don't continue to do it because of one person that might have problems with it that's not even in their world anyway, but they choose to they choose to listen to that one bad person or the person that they don't really care for, but they let their view of them dominate if they do something or not.
Yeah. I mean,
You know, it blows my doors off that it's like, okay, the actions you are taking is the most important thing, but you're letting somebody else's opinion that's not even in your tribe anyway govern whether you continue to do that thing or not.
and meanwhile, the person that you're worried about, they don't have the balls to do what you're trying to attempt to
Correct.
do.
Right.
So it really is funny, because when you can realize, wait a second, you're going to be mocked because you're doing something that other people wish they had the balls to do.
Correct.
And I love the fact that when you can reverse engineer that and realize, well, I'm going to show that person that it can be done. And what's their excuse?
Well, and
You
here's
know?
the thing. You do anything that you're up to in life, expect no agreement.
Yeah.
Because you're making a choice yourself that this is important to you, and it should not matter what other people think about it.
Right.
You know, just look at all the classic inventors or all the legendary inventors of our time. Jobs, Edison, Tesla, right? Did they go against the odds? Sure they did. Did they have people say, you know, remember when Jobs came out with the iPhone? Nokia and BlackBerry were the dominant forces. Did he face resistance? Sure. Did he give up on himself? No. Now look at where it is. I mean, I'm not saying that we're at that level, but in our own lives, we're going to face resistance to anything that we want to do if it goes against what the status quo is.
Right.
And you're either willing to take that risk, not knowing what it's going to look like or what it's going to take to complete that fulfillment. But you do it because your heart's telling you so. You're doing it because you believe in yourself enough to know that this is what something can look like. My industry, my life, my family, whatever it might be. And you're not going to, and you don't, there is no end to that. There's just a start.
Absolutely.
And it's what you do on a daily basis. It's what you consistently do because it lights you up. And you really don't know why. You just have a smile on your face, or you know that your work is not done yet for this thing that's really important to you. You know, so it's risk. I love risk. I love talking about it. You know, there's a great book that just came out from Victoria Labalme that I've read a few pages in, but there's been a lot of quotes that have floated out of that book recently that speak to risk, right? And I know that, you know, she's been getting awards and all of this kind of thing, but risk is a very fascinating topic because I think that a lot of human potential is
lost
by people that are not willing to take risks.
Yeah, for sure.
You know? And so it's one of those things where it's like you open up the door and it's just like you go for as long as you want. There is no end to taking risk. And that really excites me because that's where the unknown is.
Right. I mean, we took a risk. We took a risk to really see if we would get along good enough to do a show for 6 months. I mean, holy shit. I mean, you know, by the time I leave, it'll be 6 months we've been doing this. And I mean, where did 5 months go? Or, you know, 4 months. We completed 4 full months, I should say. But we're in our 5th month.
I was just talking to a buddy about, you know, the power of video and where things are going. And it's like, oh, man, I could never get in front of a camera. And I'm like, okay, you know what you do? You hit record again. Hit record again. Hit record again. Wow. I'm like, trust me, your first 100 videos or so, based on one of our mentors, right? You're going to hate yourself. You're not going to like the way you look, you sound, your eye contact, blah, 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 blah. But then all of a sudden it's like, wow. This is what the higher power blessed me with. I got what I got, right? And you roll with it.
And we forget that even if we're not on camera, when we're out in public or anywhere, this is how we look, this is how we act, this is whatever. So, and then the true blessing is that when you're gone from this earth, you're giving the world a gift that you'll always be here. You're leaving something that's gonna.
And here's the thing: is that how much, you know? Okay, let me go at it from, and then we got to get out of here. 2 things is by somebody not willing to go on video, knowing that that's where the world is, that's how people communicate predominantly this day and age, is that, well, I don't, all of this negative stuff you're telling yourself. Okay, so you're shortchanging yourself in the gift that you are. Number 2, your valuable message people can't benefit from something they don't know that's out there.
Absolutely.
And so If you can impact one person, would it be worth overcoming the the
Hurdles.
imperfections you might think that you have?
Absolutely.
You figure it out, but you press record again. You keep going. You keep doing another video. You keep, whatever your project is or whatever you're working on. That's how you get through. And if people, you give me somebody that shot 300 videos about whatever, something they're passionate about, or they ran 300 miles or whatever it might be. I'll give you somebody that they may not like that person, but they have to respect them.
Because they did it and you didn't.
Right. And it's just like writing a book. It's like, okay, if you can impact one person with your message, given that book, whatever size, however many pages, would have been worth that book to bring it to fruition. Both Lynn and I will both agree. If I impacted one person by what I wrote, would it be better than that book not being out in the world? Absolutely. 100%.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Great topic, and we got 3 more days of this kind of this stuff going on. So.
All right. Hey, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow on the next Real and Raw with Lynn and Brian. Bye.
See you tomorrow, everyone. Day 2 is long.